Hey guys, what's up? It's Tank from X99.5. We are live tonight at Daly's Place for a big show with Slightly Stupid, Sublime with Rome, and one of my all-time favorites, Atmosphere. Slug from Atmosphere is with us. I understand that Ant is very busy preparing everything. So I've been doing this for a lot of years, man, and I don't get nervous. Like, I haven't gotten nervous for a long time. But when I tell you that your music means so much to me, it's crazy. It's unbelievable.
I now you're making me nervous.
Don't be nervous.
All right.
You have no reason to be nervous. Like, everything, it's crazy because we're just grown ass men with fake names. You know what I mean? Just talking to her backstage at Daly's Place, and you're originally from Minneapolis, correct? Mm-hmm. South Side.
Yep.
And when you're in the shadow of Prince. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you know that you've made it in Minnesota?
No, that's a great question. I don't think I ever felt like I was in the shadow of Prince. Prince became so large by the time I got started that it was no longer a shadow. He was more like a light.
Oh.
And so because of his existence, it made people interested in Minneapolis.
Sure.
You know? I think when he was coming up, and maybe even for like the first few albums, he cast a shadow. I do think the scene looked at him like competition, but that was pre-hip hop. That was kind of in the funk days.
Right.
Twin Cities had a real strong funk record there. They had a real strong funk scene. And I think Prince's existence helped create that scene, or at least validate that scene, or signify that scene could become something when you had Prince and The Time and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis doing this. But also, that's when his shadow, probably in the 80s, that's when his shadow was really noticeable for other local artists, probably.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, when I was coming up, it was no longer a shadow. Like I say, he was more like a spotlight. You know what I'm saying? And not that he ever himself necessarily shined light upon us, but just his existence and him being from Minneapolis made people be like, oh, these guys are from where Prince is from. You know what I'm saying? There was
legitimacy.
There was just at the very least, it gave it a little bit of a, well, let me see what they sound like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, no, I was, not only was I a huge fan of Prince my whole life, even as a child, but I was always very thankful for his omnipresence. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
like,
right.
I was always very thankful for his existence and for what he did for that city.
And now that, you've been doing this 25, 30 years?
At least, yeah.
That's crazy. Did you ever think it would last this long and become this sustainable?
When I was starting out, nobody had proven that it could last this long. So no, you didn't really think like that. You didn't think into the future like that. In my head, I was going to rap until I was like, either rich and famous enough to retire, or rap until I went back to driving a truck.
Yeah.
And so thus far, neither of those things have happened. And the truck thing seems more realistic, just so you have something to do.
Sure.
So if I do decide to retire, because I do love to drive. So that, to me, that would be a fine retirement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking about doing dog walking when I retire because I love dogs.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine getting to hang out with dogs?
Hang
all
out
day?
with dogs and still have some income coming. Yeah, man.
That'd be sweet. It's crazy to me because I came to you kind of late. Lemons was when I came to you.
Okay.
I saw your video on VH1 in the morning. I was working a morning show, and they had your video, and the music was off, but it had captions on.
Okay.
So I was reading the lyrics to Guarantees, and I was just like, oh, I got to check this out, not knowing what it was yet. So then when I heard it, and I heard how different it was and how illuminating it was, but in like a way that I'd never heard before, it just was really eye-opening. So I went back, and I discovered your catalog, and I looked back at the old stuff, and I noticed the evolution. Like, originally, I would equate you guys to kind of sounding similar to like a Tribe Called Quest or something like that. Like a little bit more kind of like a backpacker, but then you've evolved. And you have a shirt on your website that says Dad Rap. And that's kind of how I feel. Like, as a dad now, as a grown man, it's something I feel like I can appreciate. How does that reflect upon your music and how you handle your business?
Well, for better or for worse, one of the things that I saw happening to our creative trajectory was that it continued to mirror our life trajectories. And I appreciated that because it, you know, I could see that it meant that I didn't have to like wear a particular costume. I could just wear what I felt like wearing that day. And I never had a job like that.
Yeah.
All my years of working, all my years in the labor movement, you know what I'm saying? Like I always knew that you had to fit a certain, you had to fit a look, you had to fit a space, you know. And so seeing that Anthony and myself didn't have to do that, we could allow our creativity to follow us into wherever we were instead of the other direction. Instead of me having to live up to my records, I just needed to make sure my records lived up to me. And I feel like we were fortunate that we discovered that. And I shouldn't even say discovered. We just fell into that.
Sure.
And we were fortunate in that I was allowed to speak like that he was allowed to create that same way. Because in his own way, what he makes has also continued to just evolve with who he is as a person, you know, as well, you know. And so I look at a lot of my contemporaries and hope that they discover that as well. You know, I want that for the younger artists coming out, to make sure that while they're making their music and they're being creative and they're connecting with these people and their audiences, to also make sure they're nurturing the connection in a way that allows them to continue that connection, even if they grow as people, even if they decide to like do something different, try something new, whatever, but just grow as people. You know what I'm saying? Because otherwise, you know, pop culture will have you thinking that you have to fit in a box your whole life. You know what I'm saying? And when I was a kid, I had to fit into a specific box, even to be a rapper. You know, but as time went on, I saw other MCs showing me that, you know, Lil Wayne showed me you didn't have to stay in a particular box. Kanye showed us that you didn't have to stay in a box. For better or for worse, you could get out of that box, and it might bite you, but you did it. You took that challenge. You accepted it. Because when you look at some of the rappers that I grew up loving, they never got out of their boxes, and their careers never actually continued. You know what I'm saying? A lot of artists stall out because they're too afraid to get out of that box, to try to just stretch out and do things that fit who they are as people even today. Because you're not the same person at 20 that you are at 50. There's no way. And if you are, then you need therapy. You feel me? Like you need somebody to come show you that it's okay for you to be organic out here in this world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I absolutely. It really, like, just be authentic so that you don't have to keep putting on a costume.
Authentic's a crazy word in hip hop though, because we've been keeping it real for so long that authenticity has kind of almost lost. It's a blur.
Right.
Authenticity is whoever I show you. Whatever I show you is the authentic me. And it doesn't really speak to the vulnerable side of us. And a lot of us don't ever really get a chance to tap into what that is, you know? And that's really all I hope for with these artists, is that they realize it's okay. It's okay to be vulnerable. It doesn't mean that the gator is going to kill you. It doesn't mean that the bear is going to attack you. You know what I'm saying? What it truly means is that you are actually comfortable in your skin with who you are, you know?
I think that's one of my favorite things about your music. Like when I listen to Bigger Pictures, and you know, you talk about 10 years, every 10 years growing up and changing, and you just kind of see you grow up through that song. And then I identify with that so hard as somebody on the radio. You know, back in the day, we had to try to be like shocking and like all that silly shit. So like to change and watch how the industry changes and just grow into yourself in your own skin and be happy. I mean, that's like what it's all about, right? That's got to be the happiness we all seek.
I think so. You know, I think so. I think that oftentimes an artist doesn't have the opportunity to find that unless they find success. Because the industry, and I don't want to speak about this in a way that sounds, you know, conspiratorial, whatever the fucking word is. But the industry isn't really there for that. The industry is there to take your creative ideas and find an audience for it, and then secure that connection, and then make as much money off of that connection as possible. And so it's not there for you to do things that might, you know, limit that connection or threaten that connection. You know what I mean? But I think, from speaking from a space of trying to keep your art fresh and alive and exciting, you have to do those. You have to take those challenges. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge your audience. You have to show them things that gives them the opportunity to change their mind about you. And then, if they don't change their mind about you, then really what it did is it reinforced what they felt about you. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, and so I am always excited when I see somebody brave enough to do it. It's just the problem is it's always somebody like Jay-Z who is doing it, because it's like, well, it don't matter what he does.
Right.
He can put out a record and not sell one record and he's still going to be okay, you know?
Right.
So he has that kind of freedom. So really I'm looking at the mid-tier artists like ourselves or bigger than us, but the mid-tier artists are the ones that have to prove that you could do that and still have a successful run with your art. You know what I'm saying? It's like money money is a weird thing, man, because it's like, how much does one really need?
Yeah.
Do you need more than you need? You know, there's all of these different things. But when I speak of success, I just mean the successful connection between you and an audience, and them basically handing over resources to you to continue you being able to make more stuff to hand over to them. You know, that exchange of I'm going to make this art, and in exchange you give me some of your time, you give me some food and a place to put my head to go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and so to me, that's what the success is in creativity, right? And I want to see more artists take those risks. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot that do. Like, I could go down the list of artists that do that, but oftentimes they're the ones that are already successful.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, they have the freedom, because freedom,
Yeah.
as I say, is not free.
Yeah.
But like, what I notice about the way you guys handle your business is everything you do is high quality, and it's crazy because you have such efficiency at putting out music so often, but everything you do, everything from your artwork to your merchandise, is top tier. You don't lose any quality. It feels like you guys are just putting everything back into the product, and I think that's maybe one of the reasons that we as fans appreciate what you do.
I mean, to speak to that, and I appreciate you saying that, to speak to that, you know, I'm lucky that I have a team who cares about that kind of stuff. Not everybody out there does care, but the team I work with does. And so it doesn't require me to, you know, raise a storm to get something done in a certain way. Those guys are already, that's how they operate. You know what I mean? And I'm very fortunate in that. I got lucky with that to be surrounded by other creatives who care, who really want to try to be great, you know? And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that all of us want to be great. We want to do great things. We want to do things that stand the test of times. We want to do things that just in case another ice age shows up and they find all of these artifacts way later, we want our shit to still stand up. You know what I'm saying? Like,
quality over quantity. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, I know you got to get on stage really soon, so I'm going to let you get back to work, but thank you so much.
I appreciate
Talking to you was everything I've always hoped it would be.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks so much, man.
Thank you.